What if I told you that the single most important piece of software in your life is one you've probably never even heard of? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the hidden giant of our digital world, Linux. But first, let me just ask you a few quick questions. Do you have an Android phone in your pocket? Do you ever watch shows on a smart TV? Have you, say, used the internet today? Well, if you answered yes to any of those, and I'm guessing you did, then congratulations, you are a Linux user. You use it every single day, and you probably had no idea. So, how is that possible? How can something so essential, so fundamental, be so, well, invisible? That's exactly what we're going to dig into right now. Let's call this section the invisible giant. Okay, check out this chart because it tells a really wild story. If you look at desktop computers, laptops and PCs, Linux is just this tiny little 4% sliver. But then look at smartphones. Android, which is built right on top of Linux, powers around 70% of them. And trust me, that's just where the story begins. It's not just in your pocket. Linux is, and I mean this literally, everywhere. It's in your living room running your smart TV. It's in your car's dashboard, whether you're driving a Tesla or a Toyota. It's the little traffic cop inside your home router, directing all your internet traffic. It has even been to space, guiding the SpaceX Falcon 9 rockets. It really is the unsung hero of our modern tech world. So, where in the world did this invisible giant even come from? How did a simple hobby project, started by a student in Finland, of all places, become a global technological revolution? So for that, we've got to rewind the clock. It all started back in 1969 with the birth of a super powerful operating system called Unix. Flash forward to 1983, and this guy, Richard Stallman, starts something called the GNU Project. His goal? To build a completely free version of Unix. And by the early 90s, they had almost all the pieces, except for one absolutely critical part, the kernel, the very heart of the system. And that's when a certain student from Finland enters the picture. And this is where the story gets just incredible. In 1991, that student, Linus Torvalds, posted this message online. Listen to how humble this is. He called his creation just a hobby, something that won't be big and professional. Little did he know, he was about to set off a chain reaction that would completely change computing forever. So what was this hobby project that Linus created? Well, to really understand why Linux took over the world, we need to get our heads around two core ideas: what a kernel is and what open source code really means. Okay, think of the kernel like this. It's the conductor like a huge orchestra. It doesn't play the violin or the trumpet itself, but it's the one telling all the different musicians, the hardware, like your processor and memory, what to do and when to do it, so they all work together. Without that conductor, all you've got is chaos and noise. And this diagram shows you exactly where it fits in. Way down at the bottom, you have the actual physical hardware, the silicon and metal. Sitting right on top of that is the kernel, our conductor, managing everything. And then, on top of that, you have all the other software. And finally, at the very top, the apps you actually click on. That kernel is the essential bridge that makes everything else work. But the kernel is only half the magic. The other, equally important piece of the puzzle is this idea of open source. And this isn't just a technical thing, it's a whole philosophy. It means the blueprints for the software, the source code, are available for anyone, anywhere to look at, to use, to improve, and to share. It's this radical idea of global teamwork that completely transformed technology. Now, when you combine a super solid kernel with that open source philosophy, well, you get an absolute explosion of creativity and variety. And that brings us to the many different flavors of Linux. So what do we mean by flavors? In the Linux world, they're called distributions, or distros for short. And honestly, the best way to wrap your head around it is with this analogy. If the Linux kernel is a powerful, reliable car engine, then a distro is the whole unique car that a company or community builds around that engine. Same engine, totally different cars. And just like cars, there's a distro for pretty much everyone. You've got Ubuntu, which is kind of like the perfect user-friendly sedan. It's great for beginners. Then there's Fedora, which is more like a high-tech sports car, always packed with the latest, cutting-edge stuff for developers. And then you got Debian, which is like the indestructible heavy-duty truck of the server world, famous for being unbelievably stable. Okay, so we've got this powerful open-source engine and a whole universe of different cars built around it. But that brings us to the big question. What makes this whole system so successful? Why does Linux totally dominate in so many critical areas? Well, it really boils down to a winning formula. First, the cost. It's zero, no pricey licensing fees, which is a massive deal. Second, security. With so many eyes on the code all over the world, it's just naturally tougher against viruses and malware. Third, stability. Get this, it's not weird for a Linux server to run for years without a single reboot. And finally, customization. You can tweak it to run on literally anything, from a smart toaster to the biggest computer on Earth. And when I say the biggest computer on Earth, I am not exaggerating. Of the world's top 500 fastest supercomputers, the ones doing the most complex calculations imaginable, what percentage do you think run on Linux? 99%? Nope. 100%. Every single one. And it's the same story with the internet. Of the world's top 1 million web servers, the machines that deliver you websites every single day, more than 96% of them run on Linux. It is, quite literally, the invisible engine of our digital lives. So the next time you use your phone, stream a movie, or just browse a website, remember the invisible giant that's making it all possible. A hobby project that grew into a global revolution, all because of this incredible power of working together, out in the open. And it really makes you wonder, what else could we build if we all decided to work that way?